G'day everyone, how's it? Mark here, just giving you a little update, guys, to all of the people that have been following the carrying on with Tony Adams. And remember, he was arrested at Auckland Airport, and then of course on the 12th of August, the same day we served police with counterclaims, they then unlawfully arrest him again and then de-arrest him after they realise he ain't fucking talking. Well, I don't know if you saw the interactions we had with our good buddy Ben Murphy, the court security manager, although he couldn't manage a hot fart. This court security manager discriminated against me and Tony. Now, what I did on the 12th of September, I sent a letter of complaint in regards to Ben Murphy to the National Office of the Ministry of Justice. I also sent it via email to a couple, just to make sure they're all well aware. And this is what I wrote, guys. Okay, it's dated the 12th of September to who it may concern. On the 22nd of July, I attended Manukau District Court to assist a friend with allegations made against him by New Zealand Police. We passed through the security checkpoint without issue, and we're peacefully awaiting my friend's name to be called at level 1 courtroom 12. We were there for no more than 10 minutes before I was approached by a court security officer making inquiries into the jersey I was wearing. My jersey was given to me from a friend who found it thrown out while he was working at a refuge centre approximately in 2015, and he gave it to me in 2018. The jersey once was a court security jumper, which, after entering into agreement with Chris Hurd, Senior Solicitor of the Ministry of Justice, after initially being accused of wearing it in public, I had embroidered additional wording, not above the court security wording, and had added a red Ghostbuster circle with a line placed through the crest, and the word auditor added under the crest, which was accepted by Mr. Hurd as acceptable to not lead the general public to believe I was anything to do with the Ministry of Justice. I never pertain to be a court security officer or anything like that. That's fair enough. It's been well checked, and it's my favourite court jumper. Why would I want people to think I worked for the Ministry of Justice? Get it right. If anything, I'm the antithesis of fucking Ministry of Justice, and it did not create an offence under the Flags and Emblems Act to wear it in public. I explained this to the initial CSO that approached me, which he accepted and then left.
Sorry to just with the shirt.
What about it?
The jersey.
Yeah.
Because it's got court security officer, you just can't wear it inside, that's all.
I can.
You can. You can.
I've had this checked with Chris Hurd, Senior Solicitor of the Ministry of Justice. It's been cleared with him. It's perfectly okay to wear in public.
What's the person you had?
Chris Hurd, Senior Solicitor for the Ministry of Justice. This was discussed about 4 years ago now. I've got it all on emails. I can't wear that in public if it didn't have the circle and the line through it. And I've made it my own.
Was that from Chris Hurd?
Yeah, Chris Hurd. It's all been sorted with him. So, I mean, you're welcome to go to the Flags and Emblems Act.
So sorry about that.
That's all right. I've done my homework. So, but yeah, I can wear it. You said he was fine to record.
I didn't say he was fine.
He stood up and asked you, and you said that's fine.
Yeah, you can record me, yeah. But that's coming from the big boss, so I have no...
You're all representing the district court.
Yeah, we're all representing, I understand that.
A short time after this, I was approached by Ben Murphy of the Ministry of Justice, who requested my identification, to which he could not articulate his reasonable grounds for this request.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm one of the court security managers here.
Okay.
I'm one of the court security managers here.
Oh yeah, you good. What's your name, please? Why?
You're not allowed to record me here, bro. I think you've already given a warning.
He did ask the last guy, and he said that was fine.
You can. You can.
Warning for what?
Warning for what?
At the moment, you're doing
Excuse me, I have a letter from Chris Hurd saying it's perfectly okay to record the publicly accessible areas of the courthouse.
There's the rule within the building, no cameras operating at all times.
Then why are yours going?
So I'm asking you to stop.
Why are yours going?
These are
for security.
Yeah.
And so he's allowed to report them. He's got what's here in court. Just turn it off because you've got to appear. We'll deal with this later. What was your name?
I'm Ben.
Ben who?
Ben Murphy.
Murphy. Okay. You've got an ID number or something?
You've already been warned by someone actually.
He hasn't been warned. He hasn't been warned. This gentleman here.
Warning now? Okay. What was your name, sorry, mate? I'll just get ID from both.
I don't have ID and I don't answer to Absolutely not.
No? Okay, cool.
I have no ID.
If you to ID yourself, it's also a request from a court security officer. That's why I'm going to ask you as well.
Pardon me?
It's a request from a court security officer on ID. If you can't ID yourself, then I'm going to ask you.
For what purpose do you suspect me of committing an offence? Okay. What part?
Section 12A.
He incorrectly quoted the Court Security Act, and when challenged after stating he did not initially suspect myself of committing an offence... Do you suspect me of committing an offence?
No, so it's a request.
Right then. He returned and then alleged I was impersonating a court security officer.
I suspect you of potentially committing a crime wearing impersonating.
Even though this was, to my knowledge, dealt with some 4 years earlier. Ben Murphy, then under threat of force, asked myself to leave the courtroom, hindering my ability to assist my friend, who I was there to help, and stated that police were there to deal with me. After being led down to the entry area of the courthouse, Sergeant Mike Lahr, MLDW40, wanted me to step into your little room, to which I declined and simply demanded to leave. Yeah. No, I'm not going. I'm not going. Exactly, I'd like to leave. You've asked me to leave, I'd like to leave. If you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. I'll talk to you in here. No, thank you. I'd rather not be locked in a small little room. I'd like to leave. I'm not. Am I being detained?
I can.
For what cause? What's your what offence do you suspect me of committing?
I'm asking the senior about that now. But you're basically you've come into the courts, and to be blunt, you're wearing a shirt that's exactly like theirs. So that's all they want to.
This is not exactly like theirs at all.
Very similar.
All of which was recorded on multiple devices and is published on multiple forums for accountability and transparency. Ben Murphy told me that if I took my jumper off, I could go back in. However, his ignorance of legislation and clear discrimination against me was unacceptable. Ben Murphy also unlawfully detained my friend, Tony Adams, without any grounds and then released him after a short period of time. And I'd like to point out that he detained Tony without any grounds that he stated, and if he had stated them, well, court security officers only have very limited power to detain people, only under specified offences, none of which Tony had committed. A first call date was set for the 5th of August for Tony, to which we both returned. Upon returning on the 5th of August 2022, both myself and Tony went through security checkpoint, and Ben Murphy chose to seize any and all of my cell phones and other recording devices which I carry along with Tony's cell phones.
Is this your phone, yeah? Cool. We're just going to take that into temporary custody today.
Why?
Because we have reasonable grounds to suspect that as a threat to the security of the court. That being said, you've recorded inside the building multiple times, your warning as well. So we're going to take that into temporary custody. And same with your phone as well, so we're going to take both your phones into temporary custody, otherwise we can't enter into the building today.
You guys have recorded in the past, so therefore that's how we deem it a risk to the security of the court. So we just want to take extra measures to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Ben then chose to berate us and alleged that myself and Tony were harassing the general public by recording them.
Just so that you're aware, like you don't have any other recording devices at all, Mark? And you're aware that it is an offence. And you're aware that it is an offence to record in the building.
Sorry?
You're aware that it's against the rules within the building to record.
Is it an offence or against the rules?
Well, what I'm saying to you is it's against the rules within the building to record. Okay, and I've told you that. It's also harassment, which is an offence.
What's harassment?
Recording people.
Okay, after you've been warned not to.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Do you know the definition of harassment? Two or more times within
Mark,
12
I'm not
months.
going to argue with you
Well,
about
then
this.
don't try and give me legal advice. You're not a lawyer.
Do you want me-
Don't try and explain legislation to
Okay,
me.
Mark, because what I'm saying, is that you can't record in the
Understood.
building because of the private and confidential information within inside this building.
Wrong. Yet the MOJ, who also record, did not get the same accusation. Note, I had also discussed recording in publicly accessible areas of courthouses with Chris Hurd several years earlier, to which Chris Hurd stated it is not a criminal offence in and of itself to record in a publicly accessible area of the courthouse. Not to mention, it is an affirmed right under Section 14 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, which the MOJ had not demonstrated. Sorry, I'm still getting over a cold. Which the MOJ had not demonstratively justified any restriction of this right per Section 4 or 5 of BORA, and they still haven't. If you guys want to restrict our rights that are in the Bill of Rights, Section 4 and 5 of the Bill of Rights say that you must demonstratively justify it. So why don't you demonstratively justify why you think there is some delusional expectation of privacy while you're in a public courthouse? I mean, that's the whole theory, isn't it? You get all these criminals, you drag them into a public forum to hold them accountable, and yet you don't like the fact that the public are there. So would you rather just issue fines and offences and charge people and convict them without the public knowing? What expectation of privacy is there in a public place? In a public courthouse where you fuckers record every day, all day? And you want to piss and stomp on fucking the general public's right to do so as well. Ridiculous. But that's alright. I'll play their game for a while and I'll give them enough rope to hang themselves fully. Myself and Tony attended the Manukau District Court for a third time on the 12th of August 2022 to file documents with the registry. And as Ben Murphy was not present, we were left alone and thankfully not harassed for a third time by Ben Murphy, Court Security Manager. We will be returning on the 9th of November 2022 for a case management hearing scheduled for 11:45 AM. Please ensure we are not harassed for a third time by Ben Murphy or any other power-crazed CSO, as this is unacceptable. Should we be harassed again, we will file civil proceedings against the Ministry of Justice and CSOs that choose to overstep their power and authority. The recording of these interactions are available on several platforms. As an example, I give them the YouTube links to the 22nd and to the 5th of August. Please ensure that your court security officers do not harass us for a third time, as this would be unwise. With regards, Mark Keane. And I give them all the YouTube names and a little notice at the bottom. This correspondence will be published for maximum accountability and transparency on multiple platforms, sent via email also to contact us at justice.govt.nz and complaints@justice.govt.nz. So if you guys have a complaint, not that it really matters, because the only way to actually write a complaint correctly is to write it just as you would be writing a statement of claim, because all of these people are tribunals, and if it's not written in the right format, they easily just ignore them. I wonder why 95% of all complaints to police get ignored. Could it be that you're filling out an online form that isn't in the correct sort of format for them to take any notice of? Anyway, on the 27th of October, some 6 weeks afterwards, I get a response from, who do you think? Who do you possibly think I got a response from? Yep, you guessed it, my old buddy, Mr. Chris Hurd, Senior Solicitor from the Ministry of Justice, although I don't think his title's changed much. Dear Mr. Keane, complaint about Ben Murphy. Now let's see what he focuses on. Will he focus on the discrimination? Will he focus on giving me the justifiable limitations on my rights? Or will he focus on justifying everything the fuckwits did that day I was there? Let's see. I refer to your letter dated the 12th of September 2022, which I just read to you, regarding your recent visits to the Manukau District Court. Your letter had been referred to me for a response as it refers to previous correspondence we have had on relevant matters, namely a modified court security jersey. No, a modified jersey that's mine. It's not a court security jersey anymore. Why? Because you said it yourself, Chris. It's been modified. and recording in court buildings. So he's not namely talking about discrimination by court security officers or unlawful detainment by court security officers, or, you know, the abuse and threatens and the alleged harassment that I was giving public by recording them, even though the Ministry of Justice is recording them. I hope more people in court buildings start holding them up for harassing them. If they've been recording you in a court building, make sure you let it known to all the court security that they don't appreciate the harassment, because according to their own court security managers, that's harassing. So make sure. Modified court security. In April-May 2018, we exchanged emails about the court security jersey you had been given by your friend. I said that, from the ministry's perspective, it was acceptable for you to wear the jersey in public if you made certain changes you were proposing to make to it. I haven't seen the jersey since. Well, Chris, clearly, in the letter dated the 12th of September, there are two links. The one on the 22nd of July shows me driving in and shows me wearing the jersey.
What I will do is I'm going to put not a across the top, because we don't want anyone mistakenly, be it delusional or otherwise, to think that I'm a court security officer, and I'll get a giant fucking red circle with a cross through it, a Ghostbuster sign through the crest.
So Chris, did you watch the recordings? Did you? If you haven't seen it, would you like me to take a snapshot and send it to you? So you telling me you haven't seen it when I have supplied video evidence of me wearing, Chris, makes you appear somewhat dishonest to begin with. I haven't seen the jersey since, but I assume you have made those changes. Shouldn't assume, Chris, it makes an arsehole out of you and me. Why don't you presume that I've made the changes, and then use your brains and your eyes, watch the video, and you'll see I have, buddy. I should also add that my comment was premised on the understanding that you would not be doing anything that would suggest to others that you were a court security officer. I never have. You wore the jersey to Manukau District Court recently and had issues with the court security. And how did you figure that one out, Chris? By my letter, or did you actually watch something? That is understandable, as court security were not privy to our discussion 4 years ago. Really? They were 10 minutes after I got there, because I explained it to them. To me, it is obvious that you wear the jersey to make a statement. Yeah, that you cunts need to be held accountable, and that there should be auditors of court security. I have no doubt from previous dealings that you were not intending to mislead anyone into thinking that you were a court security officer. Oh, well, I'm glad you don't have that doubt at least. The problem is that court security didn't have that background context. Yes, they did after I explained it to them, before Ben Murphy got involved. They perceived you wearing the jersey as a potential security risk. Yeah, because wearing clothing threatens people's security. Doesn't it? Perhaps, Chris, if you didn't wear such tight underpants, your masculinity wouldn't be questioned. You know, again, just presuming. I have been thinking about how to avoid this happening again. Well, fuck, I could see the smoke from where I live, Chris, when you started thinking. Both at Manukau and any other courts you choose to attend, because they're public places and I'm entitled to. And you fuckers can't trespass me unless you can prove I've committed an offence. And recording in a public building is not an offence, is it? But don't worry, because remember, just after 2017, when I started recording in buildings, they brought out this funky new law about cell phones under 11A of the Court Security Act. They added it. Honestly, I think it was partly because of me. But anyway, the reality is that this is a unique situation. Why? Because you don't have the general public actually standing up for their rights. Is that what makes it unique? And not one covered by the court security training. Really? I would have thought being polite and courteous to people and not accusing them of committing offences when you have no grounds for it to be in the training, but never mind. Perhaps you should train them more about the specified offences they are only allowed to do things about. Train them more about that. I've already released a video. If you wankers at the Ministry of Justice don't want to train your staff, I've put up a video. Why don't you make that compulsory watching? nor is it something that can be dealt with on a one-off basis because you are likely to encounter different court security officers over time. Yeah, like the first security officer that said it's perfectly okay to record him, and the next security officer that said, no, sorry, boss man said you're not allowed. Because clearly they're following the law, aren't they? And I think perhaps they're following the boss man's made-up bullshit. Boss man being Ben Murphy. The best option I could think of is that if you are planning to wear the jersey to a court, you email me a day or so beforehand and pass that on to the security at the court so that they know this is acceptable. How about your court security not discriminate and harass me because of the type of clothing I'm wearing, when clearly it is not a court security jumper? The alterations that you and I agreed on, Chris, prove that. You yourself state it's just me making a statement. But no, now Chris wants me to email them every time I'm going to a courthouse when I might decide to wear my jersey, not theirs. He wants me to email him and give him ahead of time so he can tip off the court security that I'm going to be in the building. Well, Chris, my letter of complaint of the 12th of September said when I'm going to be at Manukau next. We will be returning on the 9th of November 2022 for a case management hearing scheduled for 11:45 a.m. Is that not enough sort of, granted it's not a day or so before attending, but I said in my complaint letter that I already read out in this video that I'm going to be there on the 9th of November at 11:45 for a case management hearing. Is that not enough fucking forenotice for you? Perhaps you'd like to know more. I'm going to be in another court on the 17th of November. Yeah, I am. And I've got 2 other court hearings to help Tony with as well, because you fuckers keep dishing out revenue collection devices, which are speed tickets. It would be good if you actually showed who the vehicle driver was, because then you could pin the driver and not go by your presumption under Section 133 of the Land Transport Act. But you can't. But don't worry, I'm training a few people to stand up to that bullshit, and let's see how many beyond reasonable doubts you guys can actually beat when you can't show who the driver was, and the driver isn't going to tell you either. Or the person registered to the vehicle isn't going to tell you, unless you fuckers can start taking photographs of the drivers to prove on that time, at that day, they were driving it. You're fucked. Your 133 of the Land Transport Act can go and take a flying fucking jump off a short pier. That this is acceptable. Not ideal, but better than the alternative of a potential conflict situation. While I suggest that you rein back your fucking court security monkeys and teach them that it's okay to wear a jersey in a court building. Alright? Teach them that what I've already shown on multiple videos, the correspondence between you and me, Chris, states that it's okay for me to fucking wear it. Why don't you do that, Chris? No, this isn't anger, this is passion, just in case you get the wrong misconception. So that's it. That's how he deals with the jersey. He wants me to let him know ahead of time what I'm going to be doing. Well, I'm sorry, Chris, but if there does turn out to be another, if there does turn out to be another potential conflict situation, then 1, it will be recorded, and 2, I will be filing civil suits against any motherfucker that tries to do that to me, including you, Chris, because you're involved in this too. Your handy little correspondence with me in 2018 gives me grounds to wear that jumper in public without proving to anyone it is not an offence. Why? Because we live in a country where we are deemed innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until we prove our innocence. And if you don't like that, fuck off to China or North Korea. You might like it better there. Next part, recording in court buildings. Around the same time in 2018, we also exchanged emails about recording in court buildings. Why, yes we did, Chris. I still have them. I carry them with me for dickheads like Ben Murphy that don't seem to comprehend common sense. Around the same time, we also exchanged emails about recording in court buildings. It is a condition of entry imposed by the Secretary of Justice, also known as the Chief Executive of the Ministry, or their delegate to most, if not all, court buildings, that there is no video or audio recording. Well, if that's the case, Chris, Why is the Ministry of Justice audio and video recording? Now there's AVLs, every court is being audio and video recorded and sometimes live casted. So doesn't that go against your prohibition on recording? Or is it just for the serfs, you know, the general public that you fuckers are supposed to serve, but then just try and control? Is that what it's for? In 2018, I explained that it was part of the Secretary's common law rights as the person in lawful possession of the building, and that failure to comply invoked the right to deny entry or, if need be, remove the person. Failure to comply with you asking politely for me to do something, because perhaps if your laws had actually some sort of legislative provision under them, you know, no audio or video recording as per Court Security Act 11A under it, you know, or as per we want to piss all over your Bill of Rights Act, you know, something like that. Some legal provision that gives you the lawful authority to stop me from exercising my right in a public place. Some, I don't know, let's call it a demonstrative justification. You know, if you don't know what that means, go and look up Section 4 of the Bill of Rights Act. Next page, it does go on. I also said that recording in a public area of the court building was not of itself a criminal offence. Well, it's good to see you've confirmed that I quoted you correctly. I would add 2 qualifications to that. Would you just? So now after 4 years you're going to add some qualifications. First, recording where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. And where would that be in a court building? A toilet? Let's see if he uses that. The obvious example being a toilet. Go figure. You really think so, eh? Might constitute a criminal offence. Might it? It also might not. The option with may is the other option may not. You know, that's what must means legally, doesn't it? When you're giving someone a directional sense of musts, that actually is completely synonymous with may or may not, according to Black's Law Dictionary. Perhaps you'd like to pull that out and read it for your own fucking knowledge. But that is the case regardless of whether recording in a court building or not. What, that you can't record in a toilet? Really? What if you're the only one in a toilet and you feel like recording your bowel movements? You know, I bleed out of my arse on a regular basis thanks to ulcerative colitis. Perhaps I wanted to take a snapshot to show the doctor. Is that illegal? If I'm in my own stall taking a photograph? I don't think so. I don't think anyone else's privacy got invaded. So perhaps that's it. Since 2018, the Court Security Act 1999 has been amended. Yes, I know. Specifically refer to these kinds of conditions. Section 11A provides that a person may enter and remain in an area of the court that is open to the public if the person complies with directions and requirements imposed by a judicial officer in a courtroom. Hang on. What? So if you're talking about, now you're talking about just a courtroom, because we all know the judge controls the courtroom. You know, we've heard Judge Black say it many times. I'll do whatever the fuck I like in my courtroom. If you don't like it, you can leave.
Not guilty, please.
Are you entering so my intention today is to fully signed plea of guilty. I have one right here in my hand.
Alright, well, hand it up to you.
I have some questions to ask before I can do that. I need clarification, sir.
No.
Why is
I'm not
that?
going to entertain some stupid discussion about whether the police have jurisdiction to issue infringement notices.
I'm asking if they have jurisdiction or evidence that I was under their jurisdiction for them to issue the allegation. What evidence of jurisdiction have the police provided?
You either plead guilty or not. I don't care what you plead. I'm not going to have this discussion with you. If you want to test jurisdiction, see how you've done it.
Is jurisdiction not allowed to be challenged at any point during the proceedings, Your Honour?
You can test that, Mr. King, if you think you can get away with trying to test it as a defendant.
Objection, point of clarification.
I'm not entertaining a discussion about jurisdiction today, Mr. King.
Why is that?
Because
Is that not an element that
this
should
is
be
my court, and I run it in the way I see fit. And if you don't like it, you can leave.
Well, I sent them 21 questions and haven't got any answers whatsoever. Just fully take
questions,
because I thought you...
questions, Mr. King, are absolute nonsense. And you're wasting
How is
time.
the jurisdiction of this court or of the New Zealand courts nonsense, Your Honour?
30 seconds and I'm entering a deemed not guilty plea. I'm not having this conversation. I'm not wasting my time with someone who wants to have some.
I wish you to have fully informed plea, Your Honour.
Deemed not guilty.
Are you entering a plea on behalf of me, Your Honour?
Yeah, because you're refusing to enter a plea.
Are you practising law from the bench, Your Honour?
I think you can't.
Are you practising law from the bench? Are you
Don't talk to me like that, Mr. King. I hold you in contempt and have you detained. Stop wasting my time. A deemed not guilty plea. I'm going to fix that. I want to confront the judge.
Remember? Old Timothy Black? That fuckwit that can't even get family court fucking matters right down in Wellington? Yes, I'm still watching you, Tim. I'm looking forward to the prosecutions coming your way. And imposed elsewhere in the court, you mean court building, by or on behalf of the Chief Executive of the Ministry or by court security officer. Really? So the fact that you've already told me that it's not a criminal offence in and of itself to record in a court building, leading me to believe that I'm okay to exercise my rights in a publicly accessible area of the courthouse, and now you're telling me 11A1 and 11A2 puts limitations on that. Then let's see the justification for that limitation. Let's see you explain to me what privacy people are expecting in a public fucking building, or a public courtroom for that matter. What privacy is there? The whole point is to bring the offenders into a public area to have them shunned by the general public for doing naughty things. Isn't that why there is a public courthouse in the first place? To prosecute people in the public? Or are we having private courts now, where everything's done behind closed doors and kept hidden? Section 11A2 provides that such directions or requirements may include directions or requirements allowing, with or without conditions, limiting or prohibiting the use of cell phones, cameras or recording equipment in a courtroom or elsewhere in the court. You mean court building again, do you? You seem to be missing out that. But of course, the other amendments they did in the Court Security Act back in 2018 is they changed the word court. Court used to mean the courtroom. Now, court means the entire fucking complex. Means the courtroom, the public accessible areas of the courthouse, footpaths directly outside the courtrooms. That's what court means now, doesn't it, Chris? You know? The effect of Section 11A is that you are not lawfully entitled to enter and remain in the public areas of the court if you do not comply with the prohibitions on recording. Well, again, I'd like to see you demonstratively justify that limitation. I'd like to see you demonstratively show me where there is privacy in a public building, public courthouse, public accessible areas of a courthouse, or even a courtroom. Where? You know, you have public galleries and courtrooms for a reason, so the public can watch. Again, just my opinion. You are not lawfully entitled to enter and remain in public areas of the court if you do not comply. If you do so again, it is likely that you will be trespassed. Oh no! Like I give a fuck. You know something about being trespassed from court buildings? Next time I'm summoned, I'm invited to that court building. And you know what happens when you invite someone onto a property after you've been trespassed? That trespass becomes void. Do not threaten me for exercising my rights in public. Deal with the complaint that was given to you. Deal with Ben Murphy and his discrimination against me. Deal with them calling cops on me for doing nothing fucking wrong. Deal with them not knowing the law enough unless you email them the day beforehand. Why don't you deal with that? Deal with who you can control, because I ain't one of those people. You'll fucking ever do so. At the end of the day, all the ministry wants is a safe and respectful environment. Well, that's interesting, considering I got no respect whatsoever from your court security. So if you want a respectful and safe environment, why don't you tell the monkeys that are running around with some delusion of authority to start respecting the public? Why don't you tell them not to insult the public, not to accuse them of allegedly committing offences? Why don't you teach them that? Teach them the Harassment Act, Section 8 especially, criminal harassment. Why don't you teach fucking Ben that harassment means 2 or more times within 12 months, giving the person cause to fear for their safety or their health or well-being or that of their family member. Why don't you teach them that, Chris? In which case you will only be able to attend the court if you are required to be there in respect of any proceedings to which you are a party. Really. So I just got to get a speeding ticket and get invited to the courthouse, is that right? Make sure I speed around Manukau somewhere, so Manukau's the nearest courthouse, and then I'll get a summons, an invitation to come to your court. And that will completely void any trespass. At the end of the day, all the ministry wants is a safe and respectful environment for everyone attending court. Really? We acknowledge that things did not go as well as they should have with your recent visits. Oh, thank you for acknowledging that your fucking bully-ass dickhead Ben Murphy discriminated all over me. You know, I even had to wipe a bit of it off. We will try to do better, but you have to do your part too. I am doing my part, Chris. I've been doing my part for 10 fucking years, teaching people their rights. What have you done in 10 years, Chris? Apart from collect a nice salary from the public taxes. Is that what you've done? Yours sincerely. I don't think you were being sincere in that, Chris. Chris Hurd, Senior Solicitor, Office of Legal Counsel. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate that. And I will be emailing you back before I attend court to tell you that you have completely missed the point that I was complaining about being discriminated against for wearing a jersey, which you yourself agreed was fine 4 years earlier. I wonder if a High Court would appreciate that. I wonder if a civil case brought against the Ministry of Justice would clear that up. Perhaps it would set a case precedent that you fuckers need to learn. Anyway, guys, enough of my ramble. I thought you guys would all appreciate what the Ministry of Justice focuses on. Bye all. Have a fantastic day.